Doug Gottlieb joins us. You know, that documentary, I will say this, Doug, the Pistons don't look great. That when Isiah Thomas said, hey, we didn't shake hands, but nobody did it back then, I'm thinking, from high school to, you played high school in AAU basketball. Hockey guys go and shake hands on the ice. I thought Isiah looked bad. I thought the Pistons looked awful. Did you?
Yes. Look, Isiah Thomas, this is what he's been doing. And then he went on Get Up today and apologized to the city of Detroit for not shaking hands, right? I mean, he's created every – look, here's – when back when we were at the other place, I was co-hosting with Greeny on a Friday, and the DePaul job came open. And Greeny, who, you know, used to work in Chicago, was like, Isiah Thomas wants the DePaul job. He was at Florida Atlantic at the time. I'd be a great hire, wouldn't he? Right? And I was like, no, he'd be a terrible hire. He's like, what do you mean? I was like, well, when he was with the Pacers, they never got out of the first round. When he ran the CBA, he bankrupted. You know, he drafted Damon Stoudemire. Congratulations. When he's in Toronto, they didn't win anything. And then, oh yeah, by the way, he had a $10 million sexual harassment lawsuit that the Knicks lost when he was running that place. Like, so I get home. The next day is a Saturday, and I'm outside playing with my kids, and my wife is like, hey, there's a call from a guy who's claiming to be Isiah Thomas. I was like, really? So I talked to him, and he's a bright guy.
Oh, yeah, very sharp.
And he is charming as hell.
Yeah.
And even, you know, the smile comes across even on the phone. And in the most delicate way ever, he basically told me that everything that ever, you know, he organized the freeze out of Michael Jordan when Jordan was a rookie in the All-Star game. That happened. He went back from college to that, to the falling out with Magic Johnson, to the not shaking hands. Everything that ever happened was not his fault.
Yeah.
It was never like, yeah, I shouldn't have done that, right? That's who Isiah is. It's always somebody else. It's always, well, you know, the Celtics didn't. Like, look, dude, you walked by their bench with 7.9 seconds to go, and you didn't shake hands. Congratulations. Finally, Horace Grant said what everybody in basketball knows. It was a bitch move. And look, Kevin Garnett did the same thing and got the same level of criticism. Okay, did the exact same thing. This is what sports is. If you don't want it, don't play sports. But in sports, if somebody kicks your ass, you look in the eye and you say, hey, congratulations, Good job. You don't have to like that person. You don't have to hug them. You don't have to dab. You know, you don't have to sit around and ask about their family if you don't care. But you do what Jordan did when he got beat, which is, you know, you got to, in the NBA, everybody knows it. You got to feel the pain before you taste the champagne.
Yeah.
And Jordan did it, and this also was what I didn't like about Isiah was he couldn't at least admit to this was they created these kind of mythical characters. Like Isiah, and let me make sure people don't understand this. Isiah Thomas is one of the 5 greatest point guards in the history of the sport.
Yeah.
Okay, he played both ends. He could score. He could create. He'd make big shots. The year they lost to the Lakers on one leg, I think he had like 37. In the Forum is one of the greatest, most heroic performances I've ever seen.
Yep, I remember.
He was a great player, but they were almost like WWE figures.
Yeah.
They embraced being the bad boys. Everybody hated them. They liked it. And he could just never – but I don't think he was creating a character. I think that's who he was.
Yeah.
And to this day, the reason that he goes on NBA TV and says LeBron's better than Jordan is because he never liked Jordan. He thinks Jordan kept him off the dream team. And the truth is, Magic Johnson, who was his best friend, knew that everybody on the dream team didn't want him on the team.
Yep.
So he didn't make it. And John Stockton did, and Christian Laettner did. And that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
That's really the airing of grievances last night.
Phil Jackson, his balancing act to me, I just don't think we understand. I mean, obviously, he's a super, super well-read, learned guy. I look at Phil Jackson. I think, good God, Rodman's doing a bender in the middle of a season. I'm blown away by Phil Jackson. I just say it right there. I think coaching is much harder than people think, especially in a sport, which it's not the NFL where you can cut guys. Stars, Kawhi Leonard unraveled Greg Popovich. What do you make of Phil Jackson plate spinning?
Well, first of all, I got a chance to get to know playing for Phil. I played for Summer League one year, and then I went to these like veterans free agent mini camps 3 consecutive years, and got beat out every time. But he was awesome then because he treated us just like we were members of the Lakers, even though I had no real shot anyway. look, let's put it in proper perspective. You're going to get people who don't know anything about coaching say, well, Phil never did it without great players. True.
Yeah.
Okay, but Shaq and Kobe never won anything together before Phil Jackson was their coach. Kobe couldn't win until and then when Phil retired, he couldn't win until he got him back. There's Michael Jordan, who was coached by arguably the greatest college coach of all time, would not play for any other human being other than Phil Jackson. And it wasn't just Phil. Like, look, his basketball acumen was great. He also brought the triangle in, which is like, by the way, it's like the perfect quarantine offense. Everything's about spacing 15 to 18 feet. You got to stay away from each other. He understood how to embrace somebody else's offense, somebody else's culture. He understood personalities. He could draw it up on a whiteboard, but he could also kind of let it be. He knew when to push. I mean, look, it won't be told in this documentary, but how he handled Shaq, who would never come in shape. Yeah. And he'd have these really light training camps because he didn't want to wear Shaq out knowing he needed Shaq in June. Didn't matter what he did in November and December. Like, he understood people. He understood that the old Jimmy Johnson, who works with us expression, I coach all my guys the same, different, right? Because they're all different.
Yep.
He's brilliant, and I'm glad that it has come out. The only part that I would say the biggest negative is, the treatment of Jerry Krause was because they had beef, and if it was an isolated incident, I would put a lot more of it on Krause, but he had a major beef with Jerry West, and Jerry West left the Lakers and has not returned, and it was due to the beef he had with Phil. So there's some ego there, but he's inarguably the greatest modern-day NBA head coach.
Aaron Rodgers, they drafted his backup. They didn't draft a wide receiver. And Matt LaFleur's fingerprints are all over this draft. I mean, this is his team. And, you look at this draft, and it's just offensive linemen and running backs, and we're going to build a power offense very much like Kyle Shanahan, that the quarterback is less important. When Aaron Rodgers wakes up today, what do you think he thinks about the draft?
Well, Aaron, first of all, I like what David Bakhtiari said. You think the Packers don't know that a ticked-off Aaron Rodgers doesn't mean he doesn't perform. He doesn't shut down. Part of what's made Aaron Rodgers is he carries a bag of chips on his shoulders, right? Like, there's a big bag of Doritos on his shoulders. So if he's mad, who cares? Second of all, didn't you go on and on about how wide receivers have been the most missed or hit and miss guys in the draft? Like, was 16
first round wide receiver. Now,
right, and
beyond that,
about what the Packers did was brilliant, and it was the right thing. Aaron Rodgers is 35 years old. Jordan Love is a project. He won't be ready for 3 years, which, by the way, at that time, Aaron Rodgers will be 37 years old. If Aaron Rodgers is great at 37 years old, they'll trade Jordan Love and draft the next guy. If he's not, they have a replacement in place, much like they had Aaron Rodgers in place when Brett Favre retired, unretired. And finally, they're like, Brett, just stay home. And then eventually he went to the Jets. This whole thing about wide receivers is so stupid. All the best wide receivers were already gone where the Packers were drafted. They're all gone. And if you think that a rookie wide receiver is going to be the difference between the Packers beating the Niners and not beating the Niners, you haven't paid any attention to the history of the sport. They went off of their board. And you have to, and oh yeah, by the way, everybody has to plan for 2021, where we're going to have 17 games and an additional playoff game. You better have depth at every position, including the quarterback position. And so the challenge to Aaron Rodgers is he going to put on his big boy pants and treat Jordan Love the way that Brett Favre treated him, or is he going to treat him much better and embrace the fact that he's going to be a young guy who's going to learn from him? This worked in Kansas City with a lesser guy in Alex Smith and a greater prospect in Pat Mahomes. Jordan Love is totally unrefined. He's not going to play this year. And at 30 or 23, wherever in the first round before they even traded up, you weren't getting the best guys in the draft were already gone at those skill positions. They didn't draft based upon, what the league is doing. They drafted based upon their board, and whatever their board said, that's what they went with. So there were no first round draft pick tight ends. There were no first round grade wide receivers at that point. There were no first round graded running backs, and you don't draft a running back in the first round. That's why only the Chiefs did it with the last pick in the first round. So everybody's getting their panties in a wad over the Packers doing what the Packers did back when Aaron Rodgers was sitting there available, protecting themselves for the future. And as you yourself had said, Aaron Rodgers didn't look like classic Aaron Rodgers last year. Why wouldn't they do something smart in case he fades off in the next couple of years?
Yeah, no, he did not. He did not have a great year.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.